He says, instead of using reason to rationalize a worldview, we can use reason to aim for truth. Hi everyone, I'm Claire, and we're back with the second installment of this Jude 3 project series on faith and reason. Now, if someone tells us that we look at the world through rose-tinted glasses, their comment is rarely a compliment. It suggests a certain naivety, a happy-go-lucky attitude to life, which, although filled with optimism, doesn't fully comprehend the unexpected twists and turns that life can take or the challenges that we might face. And such a backhanded compliment like this can often be levelled at religious adherents, especially when it comes to faith and reason. Through the lens of their rose-tinted glasses, for example, Christians, it would seem, commit themselves to viewing the world as good or everything being part of God's plan. And when bad things happen, they simply talk about the life to come, the sweet by and by, the hope and happiness of heaven. Obviously, this is a straw man argument because the reality of Christian belief is a lot more complex than this. Offering a more robust critique though, Professor Anthony Pinn in his book, Why Lord? He argues that the theistic lens through which Christians view the world actually prevents them from, and I quote, calling into question theological assumptions concerning the good intentions of God, unquote. Now, Pinn's book provides an in-depth and very thought-provoking look at how we engage with the question of suffering and evil in this world. But the reality of suffering and evil is a conundrum which has plagued the thoughts, writing and preaching of Christians for centuries. C.S. Lewis's book, The Problem of Pain and A Grief Observed are just two very different examples of how Christians have and continue to address and make sense of the question of suffering. A question that many Christians conclude does not preclude the existence of a good and loving God. However, the person who points a disapproving finger at the Christian lens should also be mindful that they have one of their own. In fact, their criticism and discomfort with what the Christian believes is itself hinged upon a set of presuppositions about how the world works. Metaphorically then, all of us wear a pair of glasses, not necessarily rose-tinted ones, but these glasses, we wear them and we view the world. This is our worldview, and it affects how we engage with reality. Worldview can and does play a significant role in the way we approach faith and reason. For example, if we maintain that beyond the material world there is nothing supernatural, then we may become suspicious or judgmental of those who claim the existence of the divine and that the divine can intervene in the natural world. Of course, the opposite is also true of theists who may become judgmental of others who have no religious affiliation. The point is, there are no neutral positions. In 2019, data collected by the Pew Research Center found that 65% of American adults describe themselves as Christian when asked about their religion, down 12 percentage points over the past decade. Meanwhile, the religiously unaffiliated share of the population, consisting of people who describe their religious identity as atheist, agnostic, or nothing in particular, now stands at 26%, up from 17% in 2009, unquote. The reasons for the changing religious landscape are not the focus of this presentation. Rather, the point is that people who describe themselves as religiously unaffiliated, otherwise known as the nuns, they also have a worldview. It may be very different to what Christians believe, but it is a worldview nonetheless. In his provocatively entitled book, The Sanity of Belief, Simon Edwards explains, Christianity is not the only worldview on offer, nor, so to speak, is it the only worldview on trial. In a sense, all worldviews are called to give an account of why it is that they best explain and make sense of this extraordinary world in which we happen to find ourselves. All worldviews are called to give an account of the evidence. Now, when we begin to think about faith and reason, often it is worldview which determines a lot of the supposed conflicts between these two concepts. For example, if we demand nothing short of scientific evidence to prove the existence of God, we can find ourselves slipping away from the appreciation of science as a great academic discipline, which can tell us amazing things about the world, and falling into the arena of scientism. Scientism is the belief that science alone can provide us with meaningful knowledge and answers about the world. And yet, we can see an immediate inherent contradiction with this assumption. There is no lab experiment to test and prove this belief. So in short, scientism fails its own test. And there is also the irony that in setting itself up as the font of all knowledge, scientism adopts a transcendent position, something much like the God it so often tries to disprove. It is clear that the past year has shown us that being in relationship, being physically close to our loved ones, our morality, our memories, our history, our politics, all play a huge role in what we know about the world, how we reason and make sense of it. And whilst for some, science, reason and faith remain in this fierce conflict, for others, reason actually leads to God. Whilst enjoying a successful career in medicine, the recent Templeton Prize winner, Dr. Francis Collins, he shared his journey to faith. And he recalls being challenged by one of my patients to describe what I believed about God. I realized my atheism was dangerously thin. Collins says he slowly and rather reluctantly came to the conclusion that belief in God, while not possible to prove, was the most rational choice available. Collins' decision to become a Christian was a gradual one. He was first struck by the challenge of his patient and began to interrogate his own worldview. As we engage with questions and objections we may have about faith, let's take the advice of Josh Rasmussen in his book, How Reason Leads to God. He says, instead of using reason to rationalize a worldview, we can use reason to aim for truth.